in North Sulawesi, near to but not at the old Totok gold mine, we found a very persistent BLEG and float anomaly that couldn't be explained by any rocks that you could see.
Or the known mineralisation.
Or the known mineralisation. We could regularly find float samples with half an ounce to an ounce of gold in, but with the rock type represented by the float not represented in our crop. So we knew we'd found something, but we couldn't actually tell what. We were literally at our wits' end. I mean, we'd found quite amazing gold in soil anomalies. In fact, in one case, one of the local guys, a local corn farmer, came in and had a handful of quite large gold nuggets. And we said to him, where did you get that from? And he said, well, I found them when I was ploughing my field. So we went out and looked and ploughed field, and sure enough, that's where the nuggets came from. But all that was there was limestone. There were no rock types that, in barren, absolutely unmineralised limestone. So we ran a big trench across his field and got amazing gold results from the soil, but underneath, zippo in the underlying limestone. It took us a long time to realise it was a lag deposit, that the gold had just basically weathered down onto the limestone, and the original rocks that it came from had been eroded away. So what I thought was a really interesting bit of lateral thinking, Steve Turner, who was the project manager at the time, who went on to become Newmont's chief geologist, was our project manager at the time. We had a kind of an in-house confab, and he said, look, we tried all the scientific things, tried all the things that an intelligent explorer would try. Now I'm going to try something different. So he got an array of hand samples that we collected in the course of doing the drainage geochemical program, laid them out on a table with the widest possible range of lithologies that you could get, and these ranged from 1 part per million, 1 gram per tonne gold, to more than an ounce. And he laid them out on a table, and he got all the Indonesian field hands, all the local field hands. And he said, here is what I'd like you guys to do. He said, all these rocks have got gold in, but they're all float specimens, and we haven't been able to find a source of a float. Have any of you guys ever seen any of these rocks before? And so these Indonesian field assistants, local men from the village, but they'd been working for us for 2 or 3 years at this stage, so we knew they'd done a lot of things in the bush. Some of them were bushmen, some of them had worked for timber cutters, and they knew the hinterland. So they all walked up and down the table looking at these rocks, and then one of the guys wriggled his way up from behind and reached out and said, I've seen that one before. So we picked it up and we said to him, can you remember where? Oh yes, he said, I know exactly where. He said, I used to be a logging truck driver, and before Newmont came to do gold exploration, I was working for a company that had the logging rights, and I'd be driving these logs on a log truck, and every time we got to this piece of rock on the loggers road, I'd bash the sump of the truck against this bloody rock. He said, I got out with a hammer several times to knock the top off it because I kept whacking it with my truck as I went by. So we said to him, do you think you could take us back to that? Oh, he said, I know exactly where it is. So that day we sent one of the geologists and this guy back, and they were gone for 2 days, and when they came back with a sack full of rocks, exactly like the float that we'd found and knew was mineralised. And that was how the Mesel discovery was ultimately found, because within 6 weeks, once we knew we had to start looking, we knew we had to start digging trenches, that the entire Mesel deposit was obscured by, in some cases, no more than a metre or two of soil in cultivated fields, clove plantations and other things like that. Within 6 weeks, the focus of exploration had moved 3 or 4 kilometres to the west, we discovered all of the outcrops, we trenched and dug and did all kinds of things. And within a very short space of time, we had a drill target, ready to go. So it was a really neat discovery story, a neat combination of really good science at the beginning to get you in the area, really good field practices to come up with the geochemical anomaly, and then what I thought was a bit of Steve Turner brilliance to say, okay, now how are we going to kind of solve this conundrum? And of course,
Local knowledge.
This young lad was there. For a long time, Mesel was called Haynes Find. Hayne being the driver that had recognised the float sample and took us
Kept
back.
bashing his truck on it.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So that was a kind of a neat outcome. That ended up, the Mesel deposit ended up being a bit over 2 million ounces at 8 grams per tonne. It was a Carlin-style deposit, absolute dead ringer for the main Carlin ore bodies in Nevada. At the time, people were amazed that Newmont, no less, had found a Carlin-type deposit.
So this was 80...
The main Haynes Find discovery was made in 1988, so just 2 years after the contracts were granted.
Yeah.
At the time when we were trying to understand the ore petrography better, we sent samples of this completely silicified limestone, no visible gold, 14 grams, 12 grams, 8 grams, heaps of grams of gold, not a visible molecule of gold. In fact, and we sent the rocks to guys from Nevada, Don Housen, who did his PhD thesis on the so-called no-CM gold in Nevada, thought they'd switched the samples in the Elco sample preparation facility because these couldn't be rocks from Indonesia. Anyway, eventually it turned out to be an absolute dead ringer for Carlin, sitting in the coastal Miocene limestone formation. So that was kind of an interesting story too. It was also Indonesia's first refractory gold deposit, and of course that was kind of the biggest batch of bad news in this whole discovery process. When we got our first metallurgical test work back, it showed it to be highly refractory, and then the question was, could you make money out of mining 8 grams of gold if you had to build a roaster? But it was a shallow open pit, the ore body came right to the surface, and Newmont ended up building Indonesia's first roaster. So it was a nice discovery story, good outcome, good economic outcome for Newmont.